Welcome back. It's another episode of the show that tells you way too much information about very specific topics in Counter-Strike that you may not have even thought of. And I think today is going to be a prime example of that. We're going to be talking about a variety of different sort of niche topics that, for me, I thought were really interesting and obvious. Then I looked around and realized, no, nobody's interested in this. Certain things like the Hall of Fame discussion we're going to have, that just comes and goes every year in Serbia. They just kind of talk about it, do it, throw out some watches, and everyone moves along and just waits for next year. In other cases, like the AWP market, everyone's just kind of relaxed into it, settled down, okay with the fact that we're just going to have to tolerate some of this AWP play. Whilst m0NESY right now live as we're talking is just peaking, swinging, hitting every shot. Got to pretend the AWP is still just utter dog. Like, you cannot use it, and Ultimate deserves to be on this team still. A lot of these topics we're going to get into, and at the end we'll talk about some specifics, some tactical details, some technical things that Ted will introduce. But joining me, as they are every episode so far, we did actually plan at some point that maybe Ted wouldn't be if he was busy, if he was away, but so far he's been super available, and that's been super awesome. So Thorin,
super ununemployed.
He's super unemployed, basically.
Like the fucking major, taking everyone else's spots. That's how it is. Okay, it's just his demo now. All right.
Yeah, Thorin, obviously debater, historian extraordinaire for the CS and League scene, but I don't care about that. Ted, of course, major analyst, and well, hopefully analyst again, but for us, he's going to be our tactician, our analyst for this show.
The most famous Bulgarian Counter-Strike expert in the world.
Comfortably. I mean,
imagine. The state of Bulgarian Counter-Strike is so terrible, by the way. I actually had a conversation about that with a couple friends that I used to play with that were like semi-pros, and they were like, thankfully, you are the representation that Bulgaria has, because it's great representation. And then I just looked at them dead in the eyes, and I'm like, imagine the state of us if I am
Ted,
the good representation.
You have to understand, that whole scene was poisoned. It was a fucking clown show like Cirque du Soleil, and at the end, it was just a fucking bubble. And now you're the Punisher here to let everyone know otherwise. Something
I love the puns, by the way. I love how you put in Cirque Bubble and Punisher.
If you knew all that lore, then you knew Bulgarian history.
No, that was great. I'm impressed.
Listen, I was secretly watching all the Bulgarian scene. I'm the spy leader in some ways.
Right. Okay, we keep it going. We can skip that nickname, I think.
Ted, of course, an expert in Counter-Strike, and not just betting patterns. But yeah, we're going to start the show off with probably the easiest topic to discuss, the most vanilla, the least technical, the depression in the AWP market. There is clearly one. Like, there are many teams holding on to AWPers that we all think are subpar, that we all think are not good enough, not worthy, really, of being constantly playing the biggest events. They're not putting up the kind of numbers. They're not acting like the carries that the AWP is supposed to be. And look, we had a small discussion on the show talking about why it felt like that. You know, we talked about the changes with HLTV stats, how that creates a different sort of vision in people's minds of how the AWP is being played and how effective it is really being used. But then I, as a tier 2 enjoyer with a lot of sort of fellows who are also tier 2, tier 3 watchers, analysts, commentators, every week pretty much we manage to find a new AWPer who is 17, wizardry, just hitting all these shots, and is a lot of fun to watch. And they're able to carry games, they're able to win these matches, and you're like, yeah, you just brush it off, it's inferior opposition. And yet I still find myself at the end of the day wondering, why aren't we taking risks on these players? Why is nobody interested in just going, what do we lose? If Brokey's going to give me 0.58 KPR, what do I lose by promoting literally a random kid? And that's sort of the discussion I want to have. Why aren't teams taking risks? Why are these players seemingly unable to play with a gun that they did use competently at times in CSGO? And honestly, what the future is for Tier 1 AWPing. Is it just going to be a crapshoot of which teenager works out for you? Ted, Thorin, joining me.
You also
Let's get into it.
Did make I don't know if you know this, but the point you made on that last episode also has completely changed the whole conversation around AWPing, because what you pointed out was it's not actually that AWPers are literally much worse. People like Shiro were having the exact same numbers. It's HLTV rating 3.0 rates them way lower, unless on the side they sort of moonlight as a normal rifler and just pump the numbers up with an insane rifle. So the real problem actually someone like Molodoi has is using too much of the AWP. If he actually used 40% more, that's an interesting aspect on itself, because the point you're basically making is, I'm sorry, it's one of the black pills of the esports industry, but a lot of the people who do the hiring and are the GMs and the owners of orgs and sometimes even coaches, some of them have no playing experience, and they do go off stats, they do go off internet hype. So if people tell them that these AWPers are shit, or they look at the HLTV stats and the guy has a 1.03 rating, they're going to think he's not a good player, whereas actually what you showed there basically is, unless you're these godlike AWPers who also have an insane rifle, you almost cannot have a 1.3 rating. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, no, it's nigh impossible. And I always see that. When I see an AWPer and I'm like, KPR's lovely, DPR's low, multi-kill rate high, and I see the rating come out to like somewhere in the 1 teens, and I'm like, I just look down because I'm like, this is a HLTV page. Sniping.
Yes.
Extend it. And I see 0.5 and above, I'm like, there you go. That's why. Ted, I know you also watch a lot of Tier 2 CS. Have you noticed really this trend I'm talking about where Tier 2, Tier 3 AWPers, they still look fun. They still look good, really.
No, they actually do. Yeah, I think there's a lot that comes to it. First of all, I think that entire conversation about the lower numbers, this is mind-boggling to me, by the way. Because I remember maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a little bit before that, when I was still playing a lot of CS and I was, in the same friendly circles as some of the lower-end professional players in Bulgaria. I remember examples of people being benched because of what Thorin was saying. Because someone in the management just comes in and says, well, the team is not winning enough. He speaks to the team and the IGL tells him, well, we don't need to change. We just need more time for the team. But then the GM that doesn't know anything about CS comes in and says, well, this guy's got a low rating. He's the AWPer. He's supposed to have higher stats. Or this guy's supposed to be our entry and be a star. And he's got low numbers, so I'll bench him. To be fair, I don't really know how these people are still making these decisions in 2026. I hope that there's very much less, I guess, organizations that are allowing them to do that. I think now GMs are realizing that they should trust their coaches and assistant coaches to make these decisions, and some of the IGLs as well. In terms of Tier 2 AWPers, I completely agree with you. I think throughout the last couple of years, we've seen a couple of examples of, I want to say, poor scouting coming in from some of the bigger teams. And I don't want to, I will use one name for an example just to emphasize onto what I'm trying to say. But let's say Molodoi was a very obvious choice for a lot of big teams, and it came down to money and who's going to be able to come in with the highest bid and whatnot. Ultimate, when Liquid picked him up, was nowhere near the top 5 or top 10 prospects in European opening in Tier 2, Tier 3 Counter-Strike. So sometimes Tier 1 teams are just going to go out of their way and they're going to make a decision that no one sees coming based on something that they think they see. But then in the same time, T, I think this is what you're alluding to. It kind of feels like they're flying over a lot of the younger and I guess very talented guys that might have some behavioral issues, but then in the same time, the question I have on my mind is, who didn't have some behavioral issues when they were a superstar and a teenager? He's 16, 17. Just pick him up, teach him how to be professional, make him work with a psychologist, work with him as a coach, guide him towards becoming a normal person. And then even if you're able to do that, I guess the unspoken problem, which I think I'm going to let the orgs get away with it for that reason. I don't think a lot of people realize how expensive a lot of those young AWPers are when they're playing for a Tier 2, Tier 3 team. A lot of their buyouts are crazy high, which is honestly very surprising. But I know for a fact for a couple, I can't say unfortunately, but I know for a fact there's a couple 17, 18-year-old AWPers in Tier 3 European Counter-Strike that are just playing for teams you would think should be able to let them go easily, that can't go to another team because their buyouts are skyrocket, considering the team that they're on, too high even.
Okay, yeah. Like, look, I went through a period last year where I was watching, like, Molodoi. Molodoi played for what? Like, Amcal eventually at the end, but it was DMS. Yeah. Before that, obviously, he was in the Kazakh scene with All Winners and other little tags that we're now familiar with. I watched Grix play on just an academy for like this, the entire period I was watching him pretty much. It was an academy, then they got...
It was Aurora Youngblood, yeah.
Youngbloods for Aurora, yes. Then they become Astrum, which is like a brief org. Like, I understand why sometimes, especially in the CIS scene, like I've heard the same stories of like, these buyouts can be ridiculous. A guy like Jay Bowen was just on like Vault or some other like tiny like little team with a weird logo and branding you've never seen before. He ends up on Big Academy. He's still there. He's eliminating, or knocking down to low bracket teams in the Rio qualifier to this day. He's sat on an academy contract. Like, I can believe that maybe, an academy at this point would not allow their kids to be plucked super cheaply, but I can't imagine it's the sort of thing where I hear no rumor, no instigation, nothing out of the scene. It's dead silence. There's no conversation about FaZe having these conversations. There's no conversation or leak or rumor about Liquid approaching teams. And Liquid, being one of the biggest like orgs in CS, utterly uninterested in AWP moves. Thorin, I don't know about you, but for me, this just doesn't seem to sound like a team that's trying or sound like a team that's desperate to win, because Ultimate has been a disappointment for a while now. Like, in that super flashy debut, he has the occasional pop-off map where his very simple, a little aggressive style just works, but generally he's been disappointing. He's not hit the shots they need. Why aren't these teams going out and at least inquiring for these AWPers?
I mean, first of all, in his case in particular, he has what for me is the nightmare fuel playing style. Because if you notice, I always say he only ever either top frags or just shits the bed completely. And so when he has that series, he also somehow, I don't know how he does it, like every major he'll have one map where he just carries, and then people remember that. If they're a defender or they're Polish, spoiler, they'll just remember that vividly and be like, no, look, if he just gets time to develop. But then they also forget, bro, he's been in the team for like a year and a half. Like, that was ages ago. And I know what you mean. I also do think if you're Liquid, the real problem is they have been a team, funnily enough, like Furia, who they had to go and get a Kazakhstani guy to actually have a world-class AWPer because they ran through everyone and they were eventually on Fallen. They're also a team that has never played dedicated around the AWP. Like, in Team Liquid, aside from when they had Simple, and the joke was he was supposed to be a rifler, but he just went, give me that, and then just shot everyone with the AWP. They've never done it. Like, they had JDM, but it didn't really work for very long. That was like a brief period of time. Then they had Aussie for a million years. Remember how long that lasted?
They had Nitro.
Nitro did it as just like literally the utility AWPer because he had 4 stud riflers. Like, they've never been a team that valued the AWP. And so, unfortunately for me, Ultimate compared to some of the names like the others, he's all right. He's all right. And then I also do think the few times they ever did gamble, like when they went and got Rainwaker and Patsy, they've had the fingers burned, unfortunately, a few times. And by the way, Liquid, because they're a giant org in esports, they are a Man United. They don't get to just be like, oh, we fucked up. The criticism's enormous. So I will say, outside of Ultimate, you do notice, it's the thing that tortures me about Liquid, is the rest of their squad are all huge names that we even all said they should sign. Like, those, like every signing, Shuhei, Elige, they're all banger signings on paper. This looks great. The problem is, again, this is why it shows there is a drought of AWPers. Because the one that's obvious to me, that if you're both Liquid and FaZe, it's like, I'm sorry, you must answer. I want to have you dragged before Counter-Strike Congress to answer the following question. So, sir, I'll ask the gentleman again, why he did not, in fact, sign a dedicated AWPer with a big name. Well, the congressman has to understand that I don't have the same budget at this point in time because I've signed the Star Riflers. I will remind the congressman that Dexter is available without a buyout. At this time, I'm not able to answer the question as to why that is, but there will be transparency. Why? If you're FaZe and Liquid, what is it about Dexter that makes you go, I'll stick with Brokey and Ultimate? Like, that is a mystery to me, because I've always said this. People think I overrate Dexter. I've never pretended he was Monacy, bro. But I'll tell you what, I do think he's better than Brokey and Ultimate. I think he brings more. I even think, by the way, here's an underrated detail, especially if you are a FaZe or a Team Liquid. Dexter is the type of AWPer who doesn't just sit there like a system AWPer and go, tell me what to do, boss. He does his own shit. He goes for his own plays. I even feel like you don't have to know how the AWPer works. So if you can just set him loose like a Brokey. So that's the one that always stands out to me, is like, look, I totally get. I've heard the stories of, like, when I would ask people, but why did they never put NQZ on any other team? Oh, maybe the buyouts are crazy. You can't get them. Why isn't Insani as a rifler in Furia? Well, again, he signed a contract. It's too big. In the Russian scene, yes, similar thing. You're getting paid at 1,500 euros, but your buyout is $800,000. Like, yeah, I get why when someone hears that, they go, you know what? Forget about it. Like, if I'm going to spend that money, I may as well actually buy a top player. But I do think at this point in time, like, there are also the other names where either, as you say, people have just skipped the last 2 years of up-and-coming AWPers. Like, we pretend they don't exist. For some, there's another thing people have done. I'll tell you a quick analogy, and if you do know League of Legends, you'll know this is a banger. One of the worst things to happen when they had franchising, which was the LEC, the European League, where it's a franchise league you have to buy into, is because it's franchising. It's not like the Premier League where you can, like, get promoted into it as a good team. It's like the NFL. Like, if say you were the best team outside the NFL, well, we'll never know because you can't join the NFL and play. And so the problem you get is this. The good thing about promotion is you can be a player no one else believes in, and as long as a guy in the level below believes in you, you can win your way in and force your way in. The problem you you have at the moment, I think, is if you are some of these players out there, what happened in the LEC was because it was franchised and basically you needed a coach or a GM to choose you as the player. They would do this crazy thing where they even throw away some good, like, medium level pros who could definitely play in the LEC today because they all did what everyone tells you to do with Molodoi. They all gambled 24/7 on the up-and-coming player. But what crucially became the case was if anyone gambled on you once in the LEC, usually if you didn't look awesome, you were done forever. You could never get back in no matter how many years, even if you developed, you fixed your holes, because everyone was viewing it like a lottery ticket. They weren't looking for a good pro that could be on their team. They were all looking for Molodoi. They were all looking for the player that you get, and he's instantly top 10. And now you've got a good player, you've got maybe a generational player who could be the MVP. I think that's the problem. These teams all want the up-and-coming player. That's why the Grix guy he will absolutely be forgotten if he doesn't make it in big, I'll tell you right now. Like, he's had a couple of chances now. For all we know, in a year and a half, he's mega, but you'll never get the chance at this point. People have this really, really, like, fickle nature to them where they want their player to be simultaneously unknown, come in and play what I think is one of the hardest roles at tier 1. I've always said the ultimate gut check for any pro player is to be an AWPer on the CT side of, say, Dust 2, lose the pistol, don't win the next couple of force buys, 4th round CT comes, you buy the AWP with armor, you don't have much util. If you don't hit that next AWP shot, you may as well write that game off, mate. You failed that game, you're going to look shit, your numbers are going to be terrible. That's why it is the ultimate. I've always said it's the hardest role to be a star in, and there's only one allowed on each team as well. Remember, you can be a rifler who's a great rifler. Ask Yuri. You don't even have to do your role by the end, mate. They'll just keep you in the team, and as soon as you've got a nice crosshair, they can move you around. There's no moving the AWP around, mate. That's why we all know the second someone dares tell us that they're the support or the utility AWPer, that means your mate has more say in the team, and he's keeping you in the team. That's some shocks level shit, That's some bullshit where it's like, Shroud's just like, Skadoodle, sorry, like, I just need you to tell him what, like, it is a brutal role. I think you can only be a star or nothing in that role, unfortunately. Hence why people like Wonderful are actually considered not good enough. Even though I always say, are there even 5 people better with an AWP than him? What are we talking about
really.
here? You know what I mean? What are we doing here?
Yeah, purely with an AWP, you can make a case. Like, maybe you can, if you want to be that pedantic about the conversation in tier 1, like Woxic, just with the AWP. Maybe I could put above him. But in terms of a totality of a player, it's very hard to find a currently in tier 1 suggestion for who could be better.
Meanwhile, if I go and look at your prospect series, you could find 50 up-and-coming and aggressive riflers that could be on these teams and probably could even make it. Yeah.
There's so many. And it's one of the roles that tier 2 teams often emphasize and really do a great job of setting up. And it's like, you know what, we got 3 players who can't shoot. That's 3 flashbangs right there. Bang, bang, bang. You swing, you get those peaks, you get those numbers. Like, that's sort of the attitude that's been in the lot.
Here's an example of where, because by the way, I'll just remind everyone, Molodoi didn't come up through European Counter-Strike. He was on Amcal, who were literally a meme, and nobody ever looked and was like, he should be in like fucking Na'Vi. No one ever said that. So I'll give you the hot take. I think this is an example of where people don't use the up-and-coming players, because I think 910 is mad overrated. I think if 910 wasn't Mongolian, if he was from Serbia, you would have never heard of him. He'd have played CCT, that's it. This guy would never, he wasn't some demon. He's an up and down streaky player. Like, he's not a guy, he isn't Molodoi. But I'll tell you what, he's won EWC, he's been a major final, because in his scene, they've got fuck all talent to work with. You have to try those guys.
No, I'm actually quite disappointed you say that, because now I have a proof that I'm not crazy, and I actually like the idea of thinking that 910 is overrated, because no, it is a fair point to be making. And
second sensing left, there's a reason why he didn't suddenly carry them to all finals. And I mean, he's just an alright player. He's not bad, he's an alright player.
Yeah, respectively, you look at the CAS region, like the Russian and Ukrainian and Kazakhstani AWPers, there is probably around, I don't know, there's probably around 20 to 50 guys that are teenagers right now, AWPers or Star Rifles or whatever, that are never even going to make it into the higher level, just because they can't compete with the elite level of talent in their own region. I actually think there was a great example of someone that went through something similar, as you pointed out, where you get that one ticket into tier 1 and then it's very difficult to get back into it. It's kind of like a reference to the previous episode, but even though he's not an AWPer, Bemis, the exact same thing happened to him, right? Yes. He was picked up as a teenager on FaZe Clan. And
very promising.
Yeah, exactly. Just because they did the same with Brokian, just because Mouse did the same with Robs, and everyone was looking at Bemis and they were like, yeah, this guy should become a tier 1 player instantly. Then he played there for a little while. He wasn't ready maybe for that level, but he's still a good player. And now
He's
people
still
are
relevant
acting
now,
as if
just on
he's
the outskirts. Yeah.
no, and he's 22. That's the wild thing,
Yes.
and that felt like
Yes.
ages ago. So, yeah, I think that happens. That happens way too often. But as you were dropping names, I think Jay Bowen is a great example. I think Jorko is a great example. And
By
you
the
know
way,
what?
same
I'm gonna.
thing with Molodoi. Molodoi
Yeah.
is 21. We're all acting like he's
Yeah.
17. He was forgotten. No one cared. If he was around for years, no one cared about this
Yeah.
guy.
The
He's
thing
never
is, he
gonna
kind
make
of
it.
he was in. If you look at his history, because I did, my profile, I looked at his history.
No, he
out of
started
curiosity.
his career very late.
He started late, but also you look in the domestic matchups, eliminated by Icy, eliminated by Icy. He just was the second best in the very small domestic Kazakh scene. Icy got kind of the chance that he might have gone if he'd been able to win those matchups. And if you look at the stats, he still dropped crazy numbers. The few VODs I found from back then, because obviously demos are kind of hard to get working across the years now. He does still look like a very talented player. It's just, the team's lost the matchups. Icy made it to the bigger events. Icy's the guy who gets promoted. There's a universe where he does arrive a lot sooner. But yeah, anyway, you were saying something before I cut you off, Ted.
Yeah, no, I think there's a couple guys that are not the next Monacy out there, but that do deserve an opportunity. I think Jay Bowen is a great example out of Big Academy. I think I'm going to play the Bulgarian card because this is the first time I get to play a Bulgarian card in years on a good and promising young player. Jorko's been very good. He played on Copenhagen Wolves, played on Mouse NXT before that, mechanically very skilled. I don't think he's at the level of experience maybe in-game IQ even of someone like Jay Bowen, but I think there's a couple of these very young opers that are in the scene right now that a lot of the tier 2 teams, tier 1.5 that are good orgs that are recycling the same old people year after year again. I'd like to see them take a chance on those guys. Instead of signing, instead of getting Cadian, although he's an IGL now, again, so it's fine. But instead of getting him as an oper, Nikos as an oper, some of those guys that have had multiple chances, give those guys an opportunity. They're playing on academy teams and they look very good. And you're not gonna, unless there's a mental buyout, which is like 800K or 1 million on a 19-year-old guy that's never played anything above tier 3, I don't see a reason you don't give these guys a chance. You can shape them from a young age. You can turn them into very good opers. And sure, they won't be the oper that you're gonna sell for 10 million to G2 or Falcons or FaZe in a couple of years. Maybe they're not Monacy, but maybe you don't need them to be Monacy, right? Maybe they can be the next oper that is, between the 5th and the 10th best in the world, and this could be good enough. Because I think some of those guys have the potential to become better than people like Brokey, like Ultimate, like a lot of these other opers that are in tier 1. You just got to give them the right tools and a little bit of chance.
Yeah, you're right. There is currently that big gap. Right, we talked about it a few times, the gap between the guys who are actually elite and amazing, who we talk about in MVP conversations at the end of the year. We talk about them in the top 5. All of them, actually, I think in the Big 4 ended up top 5 this year. Like, it's really loaded at the top. But yeah, man, like the 9-10 Brokey Ultimate sort of range, playing a role as Wonderful does on a really well-structured team, a team that has a lot of things figured out. You've seen Orp who's going to hit shots, play decently on a rifle. Hell yeah, I can see a lot of these guys doing it. The Jorko example is brilliant because he's a great pistol player, really solid on a rifle, smooth, consistent, looks rather clutch in the actual tier 2 space. Online games is very different to a stage, obviously, but these are sort of things you can, maybe you don't get immediate dependability, but in the long run, is it the worst thing in the world to have, even in a rating 3.0 environment, a 110 rated dependable AWPer? Like, that would be an upgrade for a lot of these teams right now. A lot of these teams would bet on that. If that could be the AWPer they sign, they'd love it. You mean I could have, alongside Twists and Frozen banging out 122s, I could have an AWPer who's just there, who's going to hit the shot, who's not going to disappear entirely? That'd be a godsend for a FaZe team. So yeah, I'm very frustrated with this.
I'll just give an example. Pody, that everyone was praising for such a long time for being a very stable and very promising and reliable oper on ends, and he still is there. And don't get me wrong, I think he's developing to be that type of a kid. Yeah. He was never the talented guy in the We Play Academy League, because I casted all of these guys. A lot of them are in tier 1 right now. Pody was never the guy that you're going to look at and you're going to say he's even a top 5 oper in the We Play Academy League a couple years ago, and he became a solid oper. So imagine if you gave the 4th or the 3rd guy this opportunity, and we're not talking about the 1st or the 2nd, because the 1st would have been Monacy, right? We're not talking about him. we're talking about the third or the fourth guy. There's so many guys that have so much talent. You just got to give them an opportunity or be a little bit patient. And what Ents have done with Pody is great. I really admire it, because he was never the guy that struck anyone as I'm going to be the next top 1 opener in the world, but they believed in him. They gave him the right amount of twos. They believed in his mindset that he's willing to learn and play for the team and be logical. And sometimes this is even more important than being able to hit the shots. Eventually, you're going to be able to hit the shots, I guess. That was probably their angle. But there's a bunch of kids like that deserve the opportunity to play on a bigger team more than some of the guys that have been around for, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years, and they're just slacking.
Yeah, the big fall off is really what spurs this sort of debate. I mean, we've talked about consistency woes. We've talked about that sort of thing with a lot of top AWPers who, as you said, they've had years. Like, they've been given multiple years of time. And in a lot of other positions, a lot of other roles, teams have been willing to make changes. That's the other part that frustrates me. There's budget. There's budget to go sign other players, riflers, sometimes take risks on young IGLs. A lot of other people getting promotions, getting those sorts of those opportunities. But AWPers really are a weirdly touchy subject that the big tier 1 sides don't want to go into. And I think,
by the way, one thing I'll just quickly throw out there is, when everyone laughed at that story where it was revealed that Wildcard had used Chat GPT to ask who's the sign. So the joke is it told them like players not even in their roles. That sounds ridiculous until you realise that's not that far from what we're talking about here. People reading Reddit or just going to HLTV, no filters, putting top players and going, sign him. Like, that is what people already were doing. So it doesn't surprise me someone would then just go and type it into that. That's not actually as ridiculous as it sounds. Unfortunately, what we don't have in Counter-Strike especially, it's why I always tell people you're actually doing like a fucking community service by doing that prospect series. Like if GMs just watched that video series, they actually would know in 1 year who to sign. Like those, I always say, anytime a good player comes up, I always go to your channel and search it. Like Nipes at the time, you did a video on them 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, the classic ones.
All of them.
The classic ones, the Mikaze one was decent. The Fame one was the deepest fucking pull I ever came off with. Like that was a crazy deep pull at the time. That just,
did you do that when he was on K23?
Yeah, like as a K23 era video. It's a classic Kingt 2021 edit as well. Lovely piece of work. Dreadful, but the analysis was good, and it came completely to fruit. And I was like, I'm shocked. Within a year, a year and a bit, he's won a major. But yeah. That series.
What you're saying though reminds me. Here's the other reason why, mate. Because you have an eye test. That's why everyone thinks. Why do you bang on about that? Because you can't quantify it. That's why it sounds like mystical woo-woo when I say it. Because what I'm basically saying is, yes, we have magical shit behind our eyes and our brain that lets us know who's good. The problem is they want to quantify it. And actually, if anything, haven't HLTV stats proven you cannot quantify how good someone is by HLTV rating? Because how many times have we seen a player? The joke is, if you go and look right now, one of the most like washed could have been people ever, MHL from Poland, still puts up crazy numbers online. But would anyone sign him to FaZe? I do not think you would at this point in time. Because the problem is, there is a type of player, not forget AWPers for a second, there's a type of player who online in tier 3 does a 1.2 rating and you go, ooh, could be something there. But if you watched the demo, you'd go, oh, if I drop you in a tier 1 game, you'd be dead instantly. None of this shit would work. It's actually sadly why I thought Ultimate wasn't a good signing to Liquid. I actually went and watched a few of his games when I saw him sign, and I was like, I just don't think this guy can actually hit all the shots. Like, I don't think he can play the usual positions you need him to. And then, oh, what a surprise, when he played in Liquid, it's all gimmicky plays. It was all like Anubis super fast push-ups and a rifle support you and utility. It was all shit where it's like, that can't work. Remember, there's another thing about AWPer, by the way. An AWPer is someone, I'm sorry, unless you are Ziwu, you cannot let go of the AWP when you're having a bad game. You have to keep using it, mate. Yeah. So if you're getting your ass handed to you in a hard spot that's not your best CT spot on a map, then your team is just bad on that map now. Welcome to why, if you're a superstar AWPer, at least in CSGO, we used to put you at the top of the world rankings at the end of the year, bro. Meanwhile, if you're the AWPer that struggles, it's the most feast to famine role in the game. You will have eternal hate, and everyone will want you literally to never play CS again.
I mean, there's the high responsibility, right? It's kind of like being the QB on a team in the NFL. It's like, if you're the best out there, if every single throw is perfect, if you're making all the right decisions, you're the king of the world. If you're CJ Stroud, well, good luck next season, man.
Why'd you keep bringing that up?
I'm sorry.
Every conversation we have, you bring up CJ Stroud. Stop killing me like this. Fucking bum. Anyway.
Hey man, I supported the Eagles, but at least you got one more game this season.
Anyway.
And by the way, the analogy even works because that is literally what every NFL team does with the draft. They'll take those players that we all know were never great, but they were all decent, like Andy Dalton type motherfucker, Baker Mayfield. But the problem is they're all looking for the next fucking like superstar, like fucking Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. Everyone's gambling that they get Patrick Mahomes in the draft, and the joke is you get like one or two of them a generation. You don't all get 10 franchises can't have Patrick Mahomes. There aren't as many out there. That's the same with the AWPers, bro. They're all gambling. They're getting Monesi or Molodoi.
More importantly as well, the part they're missing with the Mahomes thing is he doesn't play instantly. Like, this translates perfectly to CS as well. He's not a first-year starter. Absolutely. He sits behind someone else. In CS terms, you'd probably just give him a development year. Like, you just say outright, like, we're happy to let him be shit for a year.
I also don't think it's a coincidence he has an all-time coach, too. You know what I mean?
Of course, the system around him, everything else matters
on the worst team in the NFL with nothing,
Right, and NFL teams have currently got that all backwards. It's just sign the biggest arm and fingers crossed he can chuck it straight. And CS, it's weird. It's like a lot of teams are holding on to like 28-year-old, 9-year starters who throw 20 picks a season in AWP terms, and they're just not good enough. Like,
to be fair, I think what Duncan brought out, the thing with the eye test is something that I've never understood when it comes down to the people that are actually scouting. I think if you do play the game or watch the game for a long enough time, but you do it consciously, it's not just, I watched some demos, I watched some games. You got to be looking for something. But if you know the game to some extent, I think it's very difficult to actually watch a player play a couple of maps and not be able to answer yourself, is this guy a good player, without looking at the stats. Like, the stats don't mean a thing. You'll probably hear that from a lot of the experienced coaches as well. Like someone like, I don't know, Gobby, I think is a good example because I think this is his way of thinking and was his way of coaching. He could probably look at a game that big of one in CSGO like 16-2 and then go to a player and be like, you made this bad decision, here you made a mistake, here you made a mistake, here you made a mistake. You went away with it, or you were able to get away with it and kill all of them because they didn't play it well. But if you're someone that does that for a living and you're, an assistant coach or a main coach or just doing talent, scouting work or whatever, you should be able to identify those things. You should be able to tell when a player has good statistics because he's playing against a certain type of teams or because he's able to get away with some shit he's not going to be able to get away with on a higher level. And when he actually is playing well, when he's making the right calls, maybe he has a bad game, but he doesn't make the worst decisions. Maybe his team sells him in a certain point. These are things that I still think some teams are struggling with. Some of them are very good when it comes down to scouting. I think Na'Vi are phenomenal with scouting on their academy. I don't think Big have been doing a bad job with it, to be fair. I mean, when you look at it, even though the main team has been in shambles, so many of the academy players of Big have gone through the main team and have actually played a decent amount of big events over the last couple of years. Mouse is another great example. There's a couple of academies out there that are very good at having the eye test and actually finding out those young talents.
What's hilarious is the struggling Big academy was struggling because it was German. Like, the second now, they've gone international in the latest lineup. There's like 3 players who look like studs already. They're beating up on tier 2/3 teams that are like, semi-solid. Like, they've actually all of a sudden just jumped up in esteem by going international and clearly proven what you're saying. The eye test was always there. The scouting was always decent. It was just they were looking in a very limited pool. Like,
sometimes you're just limiting yourself.
Yeah, they're in your back pond looking for koi. Like, no, there's a frog there. Like, what are you trying to do? And they finally gone to the ocean and they're finding actually magnificent fish. So, yeah. It's all about where you're looking sometimes.
I'm going to extend this analogy. I'm scared. You stuck to the landing, though. I was wondering where you were going to go when it went to the ocean, but you stuck to the landing. It's all good.
It's all good. It's all good. We should probably move on. We've dedicated a good half hour of complaining about AWPing. I'm sure we're going to do that at some point again this year.
Can do it any day.
Yeah. It's always frustrating.
By the way, though, at the same time, also shout out to the actual real human beings. Supposedly they're not bots who do what like Shiro fired from Team Spirit. So it's like, who are you getting? Modesty ain't joining. Like, what are we doing? Like, you are nuts if you want them fired. I know.
They're cashlet fans. They're cashlet fans. That's what they are. But let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the HLTV Hall of Fame. And we want to talk about it in a variety of different ways. Like, I know, Thorin, you were talking about so we were discussing this pre-show. We both have the same sort of set of concerns. And so I'm not sure where you want to start with this, whether you want to talk about current inclusions, the way the ballots are currently working, the whole process start to finish. But for me, a lot of it is rather alarming as far as how this is being handled currently.
Right, I will start it this way, right? Obviously, this is literally my specialty, history and then understanding things. I've also followed a lot of sports, so believe it or not, I have studied like in the NBA and the NFL. If people don't know, the NFL, the Football Hall of Fame, whatever it's called, it's actually not technically the NFL, that actually might be the strictest Hall of Fame in all of sports. I mean, famously, I even think that actually, that's the one I think is too strict. Because the joke is, remember, they were umming and ahhing about whether like Terrell Owens should be in, who was probably a top 5 wide receiver to ever play. And they were like, should he though? Which is like, now you've gone too far. But what I can fuck with, this is what I do appreciate about their system though, is it's like Deion Sanders once said, it's the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Very Good. It's not the idea, were you a good player? Because by the way, what infuriates me about the NFL is if you go onto one of those talk shows with the talking heads, they're way worse than any of us are who we're noobs, mate. They're essentially their discussion of if you said to them, should this player be in the Hall of Fame? An example for quarterback is Eli Manning, right? I'm sorry, if you know the history of the Hall of Fame, he shouldn't be in. He's not a generational quarterback. He actually was very streaky. He was up and down. And he's actually, aside from winning those 2, but he didn't do a whole lot in his career. Like, if you actually look, there's people who are much better than him who will never be in the Hall of Fame. The problem is, if you ask someone on a show, should player X be in the Hall of Fame? They don't hear, there's the constraints of the Hall of Fame. We're only celebrating the greatest ever. At the end, you don't want there to be 4,000 people and you want them to be like, 200 people. I think there's only a few hundred in like the Basketball and NFL Hall of Fame. The idea is it's a very, very elite class. And it means you, regardless of like team accomplishments, for example, one of the greatest to ever play at your position, right? When they hear that, they don't hear that, boys. They hear, was this a good player? And do you like him? So they all say yes, universally. It's why you have people who I even like Ocho Cinco, who say, I should be in the Hall of Fame. It's like, not a fucking chance for me. Are you out of your motherfucking... That would be, by the way, like Chris J saying he should be in as an AWP in CS. Like, no. You might have even been good at one point or decent or flashy. But again, this is not even were you good or very good. It's, are you one of the greatest to ever play the game? So the problem already you have with Counter-Strike that we don't have in sports is we only just started the Hall of Fame project now because it's been done about 5 times. Remember, they forget this. ESL, in cooperation with Pay Safeguard, had a Hall of Fame about like 7-8 years ago. They even hired me to write some of the scripts for introducing people. So the joke is, people forget this because we all delete it from our memory. Or people like Heaton and Potty have been in the Hall of Fame about 5 times now. Fatality's been in 1 million times. Boxer's been in 1 million times. The problem is, first of all, these projects don't have the longevity you need for a Hall of Fame. You need to have a Hall of Fame that's going to exist for, hopefully, 50 years, the entire lifespan of esports. Secondly, you also have the massive issue, which goes... Just like I said there, at the beginning, the names are really obvious who you recruit. Like HLTV's first 2 names, bangers, Heaton and Potty, nailed it. You did it. But then what you fucked up immediately is even, I'll give you an example. Markov is one of the greatest 1.6 players ever. He came along right at the end of the last 2 or 3 years of the game. So you've already skipped loads of it. There's another problem. Those Halls of Fame existed for decades, right? This is like, imagine trying to do an American Football Hall of Fame, but you started it this year. Bro, there are so many people we got to get in, and that's the problem. They're putting in like 2-3 people a year. So first of all, you do have the problem that you've already skipped a lot of legends. I'm sorry, the name that is the most obvious sore thumb of all the people they've put in so far is Olofmeister. Everyone else, Kogu, Marklov, Potton, these were like GOAT candidates, bro. Yeah. Olofmeister, for peak in CSGO, was excellent for a solid year. But you actually go and look at it, there are so many players. Like if I were going, take accomplishments out of it, body of work as a player, because that's the main thing. It's not just accomplishments, because otherwise people would be on teams and get in, wouldn't they? Dupree would be in over fucking Olofmeister, is the joke, right? But if you're going just off body of work, essentially what you're almost doing, since you're having to get all of history and now, is you're asking almost in order who are the greatest players to ever play the game. And you're telling me in the history of Counter-Strike, Olofmeister is top 5 best player of all time? No. Not even vaguely. That is ludicrous. Like, he would be lucky to get into the top 20 all time. I'd say he's more like, because we're combining CS 1.6 and CSGO, he's probably like top 50. Now, look, his 1 year was insane. If you go on peak level, that 1 year might be top 10. It's mega. It's fucking unbelievable. But he had years before his career, and he had a lot of years afterwards as well. So that's another thing. They typically don't, unless you're a really insane example like Terrell Davis, you don't get it off peak. That doesn't get you in. You have to be really crazy for peak. So I already think that's another problem you're going to have, which is if you're putting in 2 or 3 people, right? Not only have you already skipped Element, Spawn, and then they have that weird thing where they don't let people like Neo be in because they're a coach actively. I don't know
Yeah,
what that is. Like,
that was going to be
you
a
put
part
in
of it.
Forrest and
Yeah.
Get Right. Yeah, these are all obvious. But the problem is, not only have you skipped a lot of the other names that should go in, Fraud, where's he, by the way? You know what I mean? There's a load of names that should be in, but even worse, if you keep going at this rate, I calculated this. I sat down and did on a piece of paper, a napkin, like, what would the next year's be? Okay, these 3 names. What would the next year's be? These 3. And I realized, by the way, if I go the current method of Olofmeister, I got bad news for you. I know they haven't retired yet, but if they had retired next year, you'd be putting Snacks in. And then the year after that, you'd put Kenny S in. He'd go in. And then the next year after that, you'd put eventually. The point is, first of all, there's not enough years to ever even get all the 1.6 grades. And then CSGO, within 5 years, will be outdated. That'll then be 7, 8 years ago. So then CSGO will miss. So then guess what? Just like Element and Spawn don't get to go in, that means Guardian won't get to go in because he didn't win a major. Now you keep going down the line, you'll be all-time great players will get missed. And so also the project, I think, has an alarming trajectory. It started off a little bit sus, but you could still course correct. You can still fix it now. But I think you're going to miss most of the old legends. You're also doing things like that where it's like, basically, here's why you put Olofmeister in. Because you just feel like, oh, it's almost like Lifetime Achievement Award. Hey, yeah, the end of your career wasn't so cool, but you were great once upon a time. Here's an award, you were excellent. Now, notice I didn't say Olofmeister sucks. He wasn't a very good player. In fact, one day, I would have Olofmeister in my Hall of Fame. But it'd be in like 5 years. It'd be in like 7 years, you know.
Right.
Then he would get in.
Yeah. This was the... Was this...
There's a lot there, so just go off anything you want there, boys.
Yeah, was that his second ballot, just to check? I can't remember what was on last year's ballot, because last year, obviously, the 4 guys got in, 4 Swedes, Heat and Potty, Get Right Forest.
Yeah.
Those are all slam dunks.
Yeah, those are all great, but I'm just wondering if Olofmeister was on that ballot. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, what I did was just to... And you'll help me out here, Thorin, because I didn't watch 1.6. I didn't watch Source. I was in nappies. So I just went through and I listed 4 different categories of things that I thought are currently a bit confusing, problematic for your HLTV, because all of these you might have to squeeze in anytime soon. So I've got the current nominees, currently coaching, because at any point if they drop the coaching, these players are all retired, and I've given them... I've taken some guesses at who I think could be in, and other notable players, and 30-year-old active pros, like guys who are kind of old.
Yeah,
basically.
that's good.
So
like I said, I do think people like Neo and Taj, they should already be in, mate. You know what I mean?
So we've got current nominees. We've got Dupree, Element, Fraud, K-Sharp, Executor, Spawn, Kenny S. Those are the guys who are on the current nominees list. Then currently
By the way, even that kills me. Olofmeister in over Kenny S. What? What are we doing?
You're
what
speaking
even
my
is
language.
This is not cool.
Whatever.
I mean, Kenny S would still be too soon because you haven't got the 1.6, but even so, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, mate.
I think even
down.
You're looking at guys like K-Sharp and Fraud as well. They
Fraud,
were
definitely.
nominated
Fraud
this
was the
year,
best
but
player in
they
the
didn't
world.
get chosen. Yeah.
Yeah, they were
for a couple of years, yeah.
From what I hear, fantastic players. Then currently coaching is obviously Neo, Taz. Then I put also Cubit and Lord, because I'm not sure how much credit we go to those guys for being the Golden Five.
Elements.
But they're the Golden Five. Like Starrix was a part of that era team. Then Zonic, Godby, Glaive. At least 2 of them are getting in, like at some point, and they're just currently
I'll give you
coaching.
another one. When you had Marklov as the God AWPer, the God Rifler was Edward, mate.
He was in my next
joke
category.
is when Navi got to number 1, like I always used to make this as one of my witty lines, right? Cause Edward was a fanboy of Forest, and Forest in 1.6 used to write his tag as Forest Wow. Edward, to be a memester, used to write his name sometimes in game, because you were allowed even in pro games to write a fake nick. He would write Focus Wow. So I used to joke that in 2010, Focus Wow was better than Forest Wow. That's how good this guy was a rifle. But again, he will be, by the way, he will never get into a Hall of Fame. I'll tell you right now. He'll be forgotten. He's forgotten to the mists of history, but he was excellent in 1.6.
Yeah, because my other notables, there's a few guys in here again who were just rifles I'd heard of, or players I'd heard of who'd won majors in 1.6. Got Edward, Zeus, Khan, Guardian, Wimp, Pasha, FNX, Gore,
Wimp should also
Shox,
be in there. By the way,
MBK.
Wimp and Trace would be the 2 instant Danish ones that we're getting for 1.6.
Trace,
instantly. Instantly. Shox is another great. By the way, there's another player. Shox will get forgotten. He'll never get in the Hall of Fame. If Kenny S can't get in first ballot, Shox isn't making it in, mate. They're skipping over him to Olof. And then in a few years, like I say, they'll do some people at the end of CSGO and you'll never get in, mate.
Yeah, we're not even going to talk about Flusher, but 30-year-old players, they're currently active, obviously Carrigan, Apex. I'm not sure what the hell Taco's doing, but anyway, I threw him on there. Fallen, Snacks, then like Rain Device, and Tabsin, as the German scene, I thought there might be a case, but it'd be one of those fringe cases. It wouldn't be like a properly strong Hall of Fame case. But we're talking about a list of over a dozen, maybe up to 20 players who are just like, you surely have to have in. A bunch of them could already be on nomination. A bunch of them could be almost tomorrow if they just dropped, retired. Yes. So we're just in an awkward spot with HLTV Hall of Fame where it's like, if you're going to keep having a 10-man ballot each year, in which 3 or 4 arbitrarily, I'm not sure what the hell's up with that, because it was 4, then it was 3, get in. Yeah, you're just going to have an awkward spot where players are either going to be eternally on the ballot or just be dropped off the ballot just because you refused to just put them in.
I'll give you a reason, if I'm trying to think from their POV, why they do 10 on the ballot but then 3 get in. Because I think the joke is it should be like 20 on the ballot, 10 get in. But here's one reason why, and this is actually a flaw of the system that all these Hall of Fames also have. Remember, they don't just want to give you a medal. They want to have you come to a gala, give a speech. They want to do a video piece about your career where they start. The problem is when you start doing that again, because we'd started the Hall of Fame 2 years ago, there's so much work's going to go into that. So they're going to think economically, I've got to do that. But again, it's a Hall of Fame though, mate. Again, Hall of Fame isn't like on the side, you're on a whole website and you got to do all this. Hall of Fame is the Hall of Fame. The whole thing has to be about we're celebrating the greatest ever. So unfortunately, that's one of those areas where business concerns meet like what you'd want to do ideally and sort of ruin it a little bit, unfortunately.
I genuinely thought you were going to say they couldn't afford the Rolexes.
Maybe. You don't know how much they cost. Right. I was actually thinking
there's a guy in New York, Times Square, sells like buy 10 of them like for 20 minutes.
Oh, there's a guy living 30 minutes away from me.
Yeah,
who says them for £5 each.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll give you the Rolexes. I was thinking the same during the award show this year, by the way, because obviously they had everyone going in, and the people that couldn't travel had to record an online message.
Oh, by the way, I don't enjoy having to go, hey, Olofmeister, you shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, mate. I do love you and all that. No, he wasn't listening. He left already. Shit. Well, he hates me forever. Blocked. Cool. Like, I don't like that, but I have to be the guy who does it again. I've told people in esports, I will always be the little kid who goes, you know, the Emperor is just buck naked, and you're all telling him his outfit's great. He's naked. He's naked. And they're like, guards, arrest this man. Like, that's me. Sadly, I get it. Boys.
Yeah. No, the most confusing thing I think was, first of all, I was trying to imagine how that would work with more people, because I was thinking the same thing. I don't really know if. I don't really know if the angle that they want to go for. I don't understand if they said 10 is too much, is extreme, but I'm thinking 5, 7, maybe something like this, and then started off from the CS 1.6 people, because the reason I was very excited about the Hall of Fame initially was I was like, there is a way to immortalize some of the names in 1.6 that never got that exposure that the CSGO and CS2 pros are getting now.
Nobody knows
those guys. Yeah, those guys are finally going to get their story told.
This is like the equivalent of the NFL players that I haven't watched that were in the leather helmets, but some of them like Don Hoods have like insane records. And you're like, but I'll never know that guy unless you bring him to life now. You're right. That's also why I want these people to be your mates.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like in football, for example. I don't know, like 15, 20 years from now, if you don't have that, kids are not going to know who Ryan Giggs was, right? Which is mental. It's like, you should know. If you like the sport, you should know who those people are. And in 1.6, it's not even that. In 1.6, it's like knowing the first legends, like knowing who George Best is, for example. I don't know. The people that actually laid the base of esports and made it the game that it is nowadays. They were the fathers of all of this. So I was very excited. And then when I saw Olof, and don't get me wrong, I actually agree. I think he should be on there, but maybe in a couple years. I was very confused because I was like, okay, so we're giving it to Olof. I was hoping there would be more 1.6 people, especially considering a lot of the 1.6 people achieved some things in CSGO as well, and they were good over 2 games. So I would have gotten that. Maybe some CS Source guys, maybe someone from the French scene. And then I'm thinking, I would even put JW in there ahead of Olof, and JW is still active. And he's won more, he's done more. And I'm like, why is Olof there already? If one of the people that deserves to be in there more is still active, he's achieved more than him. There's a bunch of people from CS 1.6 that are still waiting and have been on the ballot for 2 years now and are just not getting picked. Why is he getting it now? Like, well, why not save it and make sure that, you know, the CS 1.6 guys get their piece of the pie? Maybe they have a strategy about it. You know, they want to mix it, give it to a couple CS 1.6 guys, give it to a couple CSGO guys, make it a little bit more up to date, I guess, with some of the people. But I agree. I think it should be. I think it is a little bit weird. Maybe you could do that if you have 7 people receiving the award, and then you can save it for one of them being a little bit more modern history. But if you have only 3 or 4 people, you got to start it off, I think, from the beginning. Just give it to the founders, give it to the first couple people. Because again, I am excited because I know I don't know maybe 80% of the history of 1.6. I want to know about.
By the way, that's also what you're saying here is another factor that affects every Hall of Fame, and it's really dangerous, which is that we give you it through a mixture of how good you were at the game, but also how famous your name is. So the real reason Olofmeister is he's still a famous person now. The problem Kenny S has is he's died off a little bit more, even though I think that's debatable. The 1.6 people aren't even known. People don't know Element and Spawn in the same way. I can tell you there's a very famous example in StarCraft. Every esports Hall of Fame puts Boxer in instantly because he was the biggest name in StarCraft, right? What they
Sure.
don't know is a year or two after Boxer was at his prime, he had a rival called Nada who won way more than Boxer did. But he never gets to go in first because his name isn't as big. And the joke is, since most of those Hall of Fames die after 3 years, he's never got in some of them. But he might have been in what Bruno, like the greatest player. So again, this is why, as you say about history, like not putting Kenny S in, guys, is like not putting Platini in a football Hall of Fame. Like, okay, you might not watch that era, but he's supposed to have been the best player at that time. Like, he was the guy winning the Ballon d'Or. So, like, this is the issue we have with this. Is like eventually it's also going to get really out of control, because I can tell you the worst thing about Halls of Fame is what you guys just pointed out of the ballots. Oh, once you've been on a ballot 4 or 5 times, you're just never going to get in, mate. You are just stuck. That was like purgatory for you. You never get in.
Yeah, and the other slight factor to bring in is you talked about their names known, but I think it also a part of it is also how your name is known, because Ted, you mentioned the JW case, and I'm like, yeah, I do think if JW was retired, that's the big if. He's not retired, you can't put him in the Hall of Fame yet.
Sure,
he's still making his case. Flusher's retired, and look, Flusher's name is tarnished by something that some people are still convinced by, but that's never actually been proven. He has all the accolades and then some that Olofmeister has. Yeah. He has the greater performances, you can argue, on average over the course of major history.
Someone would tell me, first of all, you had way long longevity. If someone were to tell me that, maybe I wouldn't, but if they make their top 10 CSGO players and Flusher's in there, I wouldn't complain. I'd have to think whether he'd be like on the out. But I tell you what, if he's in there, like, he's a legit case. Yeah.
I actually have a hot take, by the way. I think Happy deserves to be in the Hall of Fame more than all of us.
Now we're being sick. Listen. Read it back
I'm French, but I'm not.
You think that's too much?
Read it back in a bit.
Come on, some French Counter-Strike. There's a bunch of them.
My little Napoleon was. He was good, but he was rarely as an individual.
He didn't redefine the game. No. Listen to my angle. He wasn't. Okay. I'm not talking about individual peak. I'm talking about someone, because we're talking about accolades, right? Someone that's a major MVP, a 2-time major winner. He was an in-game leader. He's got some legendary highlights. He had a very definitive style of calling in playing the game that made him famous, and he was good for a number of years. So, in my eyes, someone that played, I don't know, between 2013 and 2015, he didn't miss major playoffs, and he won a bunch, and he was the MVP, and I think he played Source as well before that. Duncan, correct me if I'm wrong. Did he?
I think he was a relative nobody, though. I think he was just at the end.
Oh, okay. Was he? All right. But still, I mean, I think people like that might deserve a place in there. Well, maybe that's a little bit of my French bias.
Yeah, but this is also why it's about the ranking, though. Like, maybe eventually he can be.
Yeah.
It depends what the year's like. But there's another problem you have. I just said it earlier. CSGO's already done, guys. So we're doing 1.6. Listen, Source doesn't tend to get in because it just didn't have as many big lands. And it was a lot like tight. It really was like little local lands and BYOCs in Denmark and France. So unfortunately, it didn't have the scale. So 1.6 is done. CSGO's done. We're already now into CS2, and we've already started on CSGO people going in. Like, holy fuck. Where are we going to be in 5 years?
Yeah, no, we're gonna be stuffed. We're just falling behind. That was the key problem. Like, as much as we might bicker about an individual placement, an individual timing, the Olofmeister conversation we were just having in terms of, I would have preferred Flusher. I think Flusher did this. Whatever, doesn't really matter if the rate at which people are going in keeps up with the rate at which we're creating Hall of Famers. But unfortunately, the game might die of entropy. Like, we might reach heat death for CS before we've even reached the CS2 pros, like the early CS2 pros. The first 2 will retire. Like, we may never even have that conversation about like a Jame making the Hall of Fame, because he's mid to late 20s, 5 years he might retire, major winner, guy who's made multiple major finals, brought multiple rosters to majors. Like, there's a whole story to make in a case for him. We'd never even have a sniff at the ballot at this rate. We'd still be putting in bloody Guardian by the time we get to him. So there's a real concern for me, a growing concern in terms of the lag that they've created. And that's why I thought you were the perfect person to address this with, Thorin, because I'm like, I know you've had this problem with the ESL one.
Another problem you have here is you can't copy sports. In sports, it's a famous thing that usually you have to be retired 5 years because they don't want to, like, the guy might come back. Yeah. Now, with rare exceptions, like I think Michael Jordan and Gretzky and Lemieux, there's certain ones where they'll skip that because it's like, look, you were just like the best ever, so fuck it, you can just come straight in. In CS, we can't have a lag. Like I told you, I already think it's insane that we're pretending Neo being a coach is like his playing career is still going. Like, Mate, he retired years ago. Like, he should be... Neo, by the way, was my 1.6 go. I'd already had him in the Hall of Fame. He should have been in with that class of those names, the Markovs on law, and especially the earlier ones he was before. So, yeah, he should be in with Forrest. The idea him and Forrest don't go in together when you made it years after they both retired. What are we doing here? Like, you know...
Yeah, if you want a coach to get credit for being a coach, fine. If he's not had a player career and he's making his career as a coach,
it's also weird because in
that's
Hall of
fine.
Fames, normally you go in separately as a coach and a player as well.
Also, yes, but in CS, let's say somebody needs both to make the case. That's great, but Neo doesn't need both, as you're saying. Like, Neo does not need that help. Taz does not need that help to be like in like maybe 2-3 ballots in, he'd be a Hall of Famer. Who cares? He's a coach. Like, sure, we can give him a Seiko in 6 years if he wants a coaching Hall of Fame entry as well. But give him the damn Rolex, put it in.
Yeah, listen, if Happy comes in, he gets that Casio watch I had when I was 5, the one with all the fucking the $8 one. He gets that one as his fucking.
You got a Casio when you were 5. We had to wait up until turning 18 for that.
We were balling over here in the UK, but you have to understand, crazy money.
Hell yeah. But right, yeah, the Hall of Fame, whilst a great initiative, it's always one of those things we see it started. You're like, I know the intentions are great.
The devil's in the details. And as I say as well, I do understand. One thing I will totally forgive HLTV for immediately, I don't have resentment against them for this mistake, is I could make a list of Hall of Fame guys, but it's just a piece of paper. I wouldn't be able to put on a gala show, give you a prize, fly you out, film a document. So I'm sorry, we do need people to do that, and that isn't free. Yeah. Like, one thing I'm sick of in CS is people going, why isn't ESIC doing this? Who the fuck pays them to? That's a full-time job like that. You basically want ESIC to literally be the police and be a detective and find crime with physical evidence, but you don't pay them. The players don't pay them. Who fucking pays them? So at the end of the day, certain things, certain physical things you want. Like, by the way, there's another thing that's good about HLTV. Just like the ESL one. I don't just want you to be called a Hall of Famer on paper and be sent an award. I want you to receive it at a gala in front of your peers like that. Yeah. So Donk goes like that when fucking Get Right goes into a Hall of Fame. So that Kogu is seen by Molodoy, etc. And he gets to go, oh shit, that's why I play the game. Yeah. That is part of what's dope. If you don't know, one of the coolest things about Hall of Fames is that when they have those meetings, all the Hall of Famers who are alive in sports go to the enshrinement, and the idea is they say like afterwards they have a mixer, and supposedly that's half the prize of getting there, mate, is that when you have that jacket on, you come in, up walks like fucking, you know, like pick whoever you want, Joe Montana or something, and goes, hey kid, welcome to the fan. That's half of the shit of doing it. It isn't just me going, you were great, Thorin approval. You know, like, can't be that. That can't be the prize. That whole thing.
No, this entire conversation, I think, is more us being like, how could this be a little bit better from a Counter-Strike point of view and like respect to some of the other players. But as far as it goes from what HLTV have done, and I think because I'm not sure if Bogdan is the one that did all of it, but he's the main guy that's behind the HLTV award show and, you know, organizing everything. I think they've been able to make it special for the people that get elected and the people that get the honor of being the Hall of Famers and whatever. From what I've seen, all of them were gassed as hell. And it's great. Like, getting to see Kogu walk out with a Brazilian football jersey on the stage and receive his award, I think they've done a very good job with that. I really think they have. Like, that's the one thing that I don't think people can dispute is those people feel the respect and the love, and HLTV is giving them that respect and love. It's not the fans that are pointing fingers and being like, oh, this is shit, this is terrible. Well, as you said, you go and pay for it then. You ask them how much that costs, and you do it from the warmth of your heart because you want to show that person you appreciate them.
By the way, that's the real reason even us in the industry mouth about HLTV Top 20. It's not that we think they're evil for doing it. It's that when we make our list and publish it on Twitter, that doesn't have historical ripples. Like, I'm sorry, even though I'm the esports historian, it is quite unlikely, unless I do a separate side project through LFN, that anyone will look up. I used to do lists of the top players, but who remembers that? You don't, do you? HLTVs will be immortalized, you know? Yeah, listen, I was based. I did have Nico third in 2016. Suck my dick. Yeah, he's better than you, Fallen. Always was, mate, every second of his life. But you know what? HLTV, you were number 2, so you win that one. I'm sorry, in history, he wins that battle.
Yeah, he
wins
will.
a lot of the battles.
I've had that comment made before where I've talked about Fallen as an AWPer, and I'm like, yeah, no, he had a couple of years where he was pretty damn good, but, you know, more of his time in his career he was pretty awful, you know, at least at the top level. And then someone, I literally had it in a live chat moment, someone, but he was number 2 and number 5. And I was like, it wasn't in my fucking list. I'm sorry.
Absolutely. But Rodri was the Ballon d'Or winner. He must have been the best player in the world.
Oh, God Christ.
You win again, mate. I can't do anything about it, can I, mate?
Yeah, can't change it. It's been awarded.
That's it. That's aged badly now when it was only like 2 years ago, guys. That's already aged badly. By the way, notice how the second Kevin De Bruyne left that team magically. Where you at, Rodri? Come on, mate. Best player in the world. Come on. Where is it?
I mean,
Bummer, in it.
Can control possession, kinda.
Bummer.
I'm loving that conversation right now as a Man U fan. I'm loving that conversation as a Man U fan right now. It's lovely.
Oh man, the ripple effect of Berbatov's spin. Oh god. Anyway,
right.
The Berber spin. That's all you're there for. I know that's why.
Yeah. No.
Shall
been a while.
we talk some
And also,
minutia?
I'll totally admit, if you haven't noticed, by the way, here's the real secret I did in my esports career, guys. I never used to comment on like European sports. You notice I only ever used to talk about NBA and NHL, etc. So I kept it in the American domain.
Sure.
If you'd have actually known the whole time I've been a lifelong Liverpool fan, wouldn't it suddenly make sense of like, wait a minute, that's why he thinks Nico's good even though his team's not as good. He doesn't care about whether you have the title. So wait a minute, yes, Steven Gerrard might be the best English player ever. He's right. Like, fuck, listen, I hide my biases, motherfucker. That's part of the secret. That's part of the secret. I only now reveal them when it's too late for you all. It's too late now. You already let me in. I'm already fucking part of the furniture. It's over now, boys. It's over now.
Yeah. Some things are, best kept secret. Let's talk about some Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike. Not just storylines, not just transfers, not just the Hall of Fame. Ted, it is your time to shine. We're talking about Spirit and their new roles, I believe. So yeah, what's up with this?
Yeah. So initially, when we were trying to figure out what to talk about in today's strategical, segment of the show, me and T decided, you know what? Spirit have been one of the most discussed teams over the last couple of months, especially after they announced that Magix is coming in last month as the IGL, especially after they announced that Zontix is coming in as well. Zwei went out, Chopper goes out, and now one of the big questions, especially on my mind, is how will Team Spirit's structure change? One of the main issues that a lot of people had with Team Spirit before the player break and throughout the last 1 year was boring T sides to some extent, just relying on Donk to create space, lack of creativity on both the T and the CT sides when Donk is not having a great game and when Shiro's not able to pull off amazing clutches. So we're going to take a look at numerous rounds here, and we're going to summarize it in the end. We're going to start it off with a good example of how Magix as an IGL is actually helping those guys tweak stuff a little bit and be a little bit more creative and proactive when it comes down on the CT side. Now, one of the main things about Spirit making those changes and Magix coming in and Zontix coming in is that Zontix and Magix are going to fit in a lot of the roles that they previously played. Well, Magix is going to fit in a lot of the chopper roles, and Zontix is going to play a lot of the roles that he used to play before. So you're looking at the 4 maps that Spirit has played in the online stage of Blast Bounty, and you're looking at the positions of Tenir, who I think is one of the main talking points when it comes down to this entire team right now. Tenir has changed his roles on most maps that they have played. You're looking at Ancient versus Inner Circle. We're going to start it off with Nuke, obviously, but just to have that entire picture painted, he goes in towards a B anchor. He was an A anchor before. Nuke, Tenir was a ramp player. Now he's a door player. T side, he was the lobby guy. Now Zontix is the lobby guy. Tenir is going to go out and play silo. There's a number of maps where Tenir is just playing different roles, and we're going to play this round. The reason we're playing this is a great way to emphasize on how much more depth there will be aggressively in towards outside from the side of Team Spirit, with both Tenir and Dong being able to partner up. Now, from the very beginning of this round, we're going to see Zontix starting towards the ramp. He's going to stop with the Yuto. Tenir starts in from heaven, and you can see how both him and Donk are playing nearby, close each other, in towards mini. What that enables you to do, first of all, you can have quicker rotations. Second of all, you can have those to fight towards outside, assist Magix in towards the inner bomb side, and then you have Shiro roaming around heaven and around that hell area to try and support Zontix and help everybody else. And this is something that I've noticed actually throughout this nuke. You've seen Spirit play a lot less with solo people in towards outside and a lot more focused around that A-bomb side, and then allowing Donk to fight from many. The round is going to go on. There's going to be a setup coming in from the side of Spirit in towards the ramp area. Zontix playing together with Shiro. We already pointed that out. The late outside utility should come through any moment from the side of Sinners. And then you're going to see Tenir blocking as there's a smoke going in towards single, just to make sure no one goes down. Then he goes up in towards the bomb side. Sinners will try and retake outside later on with the Yuto. what will happen here is you see an instant reaction, instant communication coming in. Shiro doubles up with Zontix. Magix and Tenier are getting ready to lobby crunch. Donk himself is just going to break one smoke, get a kill, and then just chill out until the end of the round. Pretty much after he gets that one kill, he can allow his teammates to play. Zontix will go down, the refrag will come in from both Donk towards outside and Shiro, and then you see the depth that is coming in and what you're enabling Tenier to do in towards the inner bomb side. He's going to get in towards that position, in towards Hut, and he's just going to be a joker until the end of the round. Donk is still alive. He's down on the lower bomb side. Magix is still going to be playing as the A anchor. Donk himself enabling the side of Spirit to have that stack in towards A just because he's the scariest rifle out there, and I guess you can just trust him with having the B bomb side under lock and key. Magix goes back, and because of that patience and how much they were moving around, Tenier is still going to have a massive position in towards that hut area. Magix gets his piece of the pie. Tenier goes out with another kill. Shiro went towards outside. This round, in general, is a great example of great communication and quick decision-making coming out of Spirit. The next one we're going to take a look at.
I just love the way Magix has the shotgun, but you only realize at the end then when you see that kill. Like, I love it.
Oh, yeah, no, he doesn't do anything for the entire round, but it's just the way that he's moving around the map, you know?
I love it.
Yeah, no, he's the trickster. He's the trickster. You got to put him on a gun like this. So you're looking at this one, and then we have another one. We're gonna take a look at the first two rounds and then do a bit of a recap. But round number 16 against the Sinners is one we're gonna take a look at where Spirit is on the T side. And this is a great example of how Spirit can be a lot more creative and what actually having Tenier freed up when you have Zontix being the lurker can provide to the T side. We can actually play this one without pausing just to emphasize on the speed of everything going on. You have Donk in towards outside. Look at what Tenier is doing though. Jumping towards the top of Mini, flash over, Tenier is being sent in towards Hell. At the same time, Donk is taking all that space down in towards Secret. And then you're going to notice on the kill feed, the moment that Donk gets a kill, Tenier is going to be very patient. He will activate after Donk gets his kill in towards Secret. And from that point on, even though Zontix goes down through the smoke against Kisarek, Spirit are just going to turn this entire round around because you're seeing a little bit more creativity. And actually what happens until the end of this round doesn't really matter for the point. The point is, for the first time in maybe 5-6 months, maybe more, you can see how Spirit can throw in a little bit of creativity on the T side, something that you've seen especially on the T side of Nuke from a lot of people, where they don't just have that one guy running outside to fight, they have those bonus people that are going to be jumping in, playing around the layered smokes, going in towards Garage, trying to push Hell. Now Spirit have that with Tenier being a little bit more freed up on the T side of Nuke, and this is a positive change in my book.
100%. This is the so you remember when the roster move happens, right? Initially, the Tenier edition. I have it's the title of that video I'm referencing. It's a episode of the Double Swing with Richard Lewis on.
Sure.
I believe Spirit with this extra Tenier sort of aggression flair. Basically, there's no limit on the team anymore. There's no Yeah, you should 100%. You can win anything. You no longer have to worry about Zontix has to play positive.
Tenier at once. That's why I actually think the red herring on this recent roster move is everyone was just looking at, do Zontix and Magix fit Chopper and Zway's roles? It's like, no, the question I have is, can they ever get Tenier like in a row? Because if they have, they are going to fucking win tournaments, mate.
And you know what's the crazy thing? You know what's the crazy thing, Duncan? This is actually a great bridge going into the next rounds we're going to take a look at. If you look at it, Tenier is actually taking the majority of Zway's roles on a lot of the maps. And there's the switch up. Zontix comes back. He's playing his old roles. And Tenier, who was playing a lot of the roles of Zontix, is transitioning to being his way. But what you're winning when you have him against what you were losing before that is the fact that Tenier, being the star of Heroic, he was an anchor on a lot of the maps. There was very few maps on which he was a rotation player or a star guy. Dust 2 is a good example. We're going to see that. But in the end of the day, Tenier was always a player. And I've talked to Heroic's ex-assistant coach, Feed, who was one of the people that recruited him on Heroic at the start of last year. He told me the reason they liked him so much was, first, he's very talkative. Second, he's that type of a player that you can put in a very underwhelming position, and he's always going to get instant double kill on headshots, even when he's an anchor. So I think a lot of people are making the mistake thinking Tenier should be a star player that has star positions on every single map. No, he's a cheat code into being a good anchor that's going to get you multi-kills. That's, I think, one of his best qualities.
Yeah. Also, for anyone who watched and saw his numbers went down in Spirit, it's like, bro, watch the games. The eye test on that guy's skills are crazy. He looks so mechanically strong. It's really exciting.
The problem was never him. It was the fit. It was how it was being brought together. Because if you'd see, we all watched the Heroic stint. the heroic stint wasn't a pure entry. He wasn't taking anything away from Donk in terms of how you'd play them together.
The overlap. Exactly.
It's a second prong. It's like a slightly delayed activation, as we saw here. Like the initial push, the fast pace, the high tempo player is Donk. Tanir has got that initial flash a bit early, but he's then just very patient. He's very happy to sit. He's waiting to activate, and that's what made him so dangerous on heroic as well. Like, it's sure, Xcloud is bombastic opening. Youngstar can take some hard entry paths if you need it. Tanir's going to be more measured and go and make those plays as they become available.
That's why the vision makes so much sense for Spirit. Think about in Spirit, you have Donk giving you the craziest T openings you will ever get. But how many times do they still lose the round? Because it would be like Zwei or Magix or fucking Zontix or Chopper. They'd be the one at the end of the round trying to close the round against like fucking Nico or something like that. And you'd be like, Jesus, this is never going to work. Now, you think about the world where Tanir's the one doing that, mate, you win a lot of games. You're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you're getting more with Magix being the IGL as well. And the last round that I want to take a look at, T, is going to be round 12 from that game against Inner Circle on Dust 2. If you're good to skip in towards that. So the reason I want to focus on that round is because this showcases one of the main differences between Magix as an IGL and Chopper as an IGL. We're going to play it around. It's going to start off pretty standard. You're going to see a default coming in from the side of Spirit, some early utility in towards that long area. You see the corner smoke, the CTs beat it, they have the information. It's quite obvious from the very beginning that Spirit want to make this be a B finish, right? They start with 3 guys in towards the tunnels, they clear out lower, they have 2 people in towards top middle. What we're going to notice here is the way that Spirit are just getting accustomed to the fact that in the last couple of rounds, they were not being too contested in towards middle, and they were allowed to get that control in towards short and in towards down mid. So what Magix is doing right now, he's single-handedly faking that there's more people in towards middle, all alone, being very confident that he's not going to, and just realize if he dies there, this is big trouble because the mid guy is going to rotate back B, the short guy is going to push and he's going to have a fast flank in B tunnels. This is Magix on his own, holding on the entire team of Inner Circle for around 20-25 seconds with utility in towards middle. And his teammates in the meantime are just going out B. They have a 4v1. They get a 1-for-1. Even though Magix dies without a kill, he's got the information. He knows there was 1 guy close short. He knows there's 2 guys in towards middle. They can make an educated guess that if those people are playing like this, then the long guy was deep towards long. So he's either going to come in top mid or come in back from CT. And because of what Magix is doing, you've left Shiro, Donk, and Zontix in a 3v4 on the most difficult bomb site to retake in a post plan in a buy round. They're probably going to win that more often than not. And this is one of the things that I appreciate about Magix after going through pretty much all the T-side rounds that Spirit have played so far with this major, which is not with this lineup, which is not too much, but it still gives you a rough idea on what type of an IGL he's going to be. Magix, even though he's a trickster as a player, and I expected him to be maybe a little bit more vanilla as an IGL, I think he's a trickster as an IGL as well. He's that type of a guy that's going to try and cheat his way into getting an unfair advantage, judging based on some tells that he's been able to gather throughout the first couple of gun rounds. And I think this is a great example of how he's able to get some of his star players, some of his good players in a comfortable post plan, and then Spirit can actually play it around. It's not only can Don get us a triple entry, well, if he does, we win the round. If he doesn't, we lose. Now we actually have an idea on how to get the team to a late round and then enable the individuals to clutch, which I think is a very good change for the side of Spirit. They just look like a team that has a bit of a younger soul right now.
What I don't get is, I thought everyone in the scene, and based on HLTV awards, I'm right, doesn't think Chopper was like some great IGL, like some generational guy. So, if anything, hasn't Zonk already proven he doesn't need to have one of the best IGLs? So, again, my question isn't, can Magix be as good as fucking Apex? Sure. No, it doesn't matter. The question is, can he do the bare minimum, or can he fit the style that enables Donk, Shiro, and if you do that, then it's also why in Falcons, I think the misnomer is like, how good are Jobs Kixon doing? No, the question is, how the fuck's Nico play, mate? Like, does Monacy choke at the majors? Like, these guys, it's like football. Everyone doesn't have to have like the best goalkeeper and the best defender. Sometimes you can just have the best attackers and a really great style. So it's, I think all team sports are about enabling stars using the style. And Spirit looks like that's one area that Halley understands, mate. Like, I give him props for how he's moved these pieces in and out. I mean, as much as now Zwei might end up just having an average career, they wouldn't fucking tournaments with this guy. Like, They've done it with so many different pieces. I'm really excited for this roster. I'm amazed. Like, it was almost like a bit of a split community. Some people thought it was a bad move. I thought I love this gamble. It is a gamble. What a great gamble, though.
Yeah, my main concern was just my reaction to it was just pushback, because I got a lot of people who were excited. I thought the majority of people actually loved the move just because they were all vehemently anti-chopper. And my pushback initially was just, time out, why is Magic's magically a different IGL? Like, why is the kid basically raised by chopper going to be different? And so far, look, there has been some interesting evolutions, as Ted has just shown, with some of this Magic's playmaking, some of the adjustments to the roles. I think something I noticed that I wasn't expecting to see was Zontix. Like, sure, he's still playing some very static extremity sort of holding spots.
Sure.
But he's also leading some packs sometimes. He's doing a few like hard entry things that I just don't expect, and also don't believe in his skill set currently, like, to do very well. But it's like it's a very small sort of like asterisk I have on this team so far, because everything else I've seen, I have to admit, fairly positive as far as the results and the way they've played. The competition's not insane, but still.
I think it has to be that way, though. I mean, it's when you look at Spirit now, they've never been a team that's behind meta, but I actually like the fact that on some plays they're gonna have, like, if you're, I don't know, Dust2 is a good example. If Zontix is defaulting upper B on a T side default and you go for a B pop, of course he's gonna be the first guy to go, and that's how it will happen on every other team, right? And that's one of the things that Spirit was not doing before, but now I think what I hope is going to happen. One thing to have to the back of our minds as well is that this is a sample size of 2 best-of-3s and not against the best teams in the world.
Online games too.
Yes, exactly. So as much as I want to hype it up, we can't really hold these games to a lot of weight. We have to wait and see how they're going to keep playing for the next couple of months. And they're probably going to have a couple of very underwhelming results. And people are just going to jump on it and say, yeah, see, it was a mistake. That's not how it works, right? You can't jump on it on the back of a couple wins and say it was the greatest decision ever. And you can't jump on it on the back of a couple losses and say it was the worst. You got to give it a little bit of time and see how it will develop. But I agree with you, gents. I think from a logical point of view, those changes makes sense. It does make sense how Tenier is going to be a little bit better. It does make sense how Zontix could be very decent when given a little bit of freedom. It makes sense how, I don't know, Shiro's probably going to feel like he's got a little bit more freedom, and I know the stats don't show it, but on some of the T-side rounds, whenever he gets a spawn, he would actually go for opening kills even with the rifle all alone. So there's some little... There is some moments when you could see that some of the individuals are willing to take a little bit of a chance, willing to take risk, willing to play proactive Counter-Strike, and I actually like that a lot. I hope it stays. I hope it's going to be the same going forward. We're going to find out with the Parry Vision game, by the way, because this is an ultimate test. Spirit have always been struggling against Jane before.
Yeah, we will see.
God forbid where like top frags a map.
Yeah.
I want it. You just know it will. You know it will. I've seen this story before.
Well, he's looked comfortable. He's looked happy so far. I mean, it is very honeymoony, and he's even said as much. Like, he's basically come out and said in an interview post those 2 games, like, yeah, I mean, there's no pressure. I'm kind of doing whatever. So far it's worked. Whoop-de-doo. That's essentially been his attitude to his own debut success, which is valid. I mean, I maybe wouldn't be so brazenly open about it, but it's also probably true that a lot of this probably won't be replicated in exactly the same manner in the long term. We will expect to see, you know, their sort of win cons to still be more Nota and Ziello and those kind of guys. But it's lovely to see that they put Zwei in a role that kind of makes more sense for him, and he's thriving so far. But no, the Spirit versus Paravision game will be very revealing for both of those teams.
Sure.
In terms of how they look on LAN, how they look matched up against tough opposition, because neither one has actually played anyone of particular note. Yeah, that'll be a very revealing match, and I'll be paying strong attention to exactly what we've talked about today. We're watching how Tenier is being used, and we're watching, you know, how they develop their T rounds in terms of different prongs of attack, and, you know, actually having multiple facets to their play. And then finally, of course, the Magic Zontix dynamic. Who's going to be making these little things happen?
Yeah, also that's going to be a great test for Spirit's protocols, because Paravision is probably one of the teams with the best T-side protocols in the world right now. If someone has watched the Dust2 against Astralis that they played, they had a 11-1 T-side on Dust2 against Astralis. It wasn't even Astralis' fault. It was just Paravision. It was just VP, prime VP Counter-Strike. Every single Molotov, every single flash, every single peek, every single smoke, time to perfection. No place where you could be standing on a bomb site and defend it fairly. This is going to be a great test. I think individually, Spirit is the better team. But when it comes down to maybe I don't know, tactical preparation. And this is very weird that I'm saying that, because it should be the other way around. I actually think Paravision can take them a little bit deep, and Spirit are going to have a great opportunity to show that they've been able to come up with some steady and good protocols and reactions, and that Magix is a quality IGO, because it's not easy to IGO against Jame right now, and Dastan as well. Even when you have Halley behind you, Jame and Dastan can take you deep tactically, very deep.
By the way, it's even why I like the Blast Party format. The part I don't like, but I understand it's for like literally economic concerns, is the online component. But the actual idea that like the lower seeds pick the team they want to play, well, you notice just like Foot almost beat Furia. I even did bets on that bit that would happen. I'd put bet Foot wins a map and win the overall 6. I looked at it and I was like, they have the right map pool. They have some players that can do this. Like, I actually think if you have decent coaching and IGLing at a low level, you can create matchups that on paper look totally mismatched. But actually in the server, you have a chance to win that one.
Yeah, it's the credit we give Blast on this. Like we've been critical of them on a variety of fronts, but when it comes to the bounty opening tournament of the season, in the past they've tried to make it a real event, and at times it's bit them in the arse. Yep. The bounty format is a great gimmick format. Like as far as this isn't a flagship event, this isn't going to be the pinnacle of the season. We're aware of that. We know all of that. This is where we can have stupid upsets. Let's basically engineer a situation for stupid upsets and make it a part of the fun. And yeah. We'll see if Paravision can keep it going. That'll be a game to be worth watching. Currently, right now, as we're talking, it is still Falcons Liquid, so that hasn't. I believe.
Oh man, Ultimate actually made a great comment before the start of the game. Paravision and Spirit is tomorrow. Ultimate actually said something great in an interview with James Banks before the start of their game against Falcons. Right now, I just want to read it out because it's fantastic. He says, I'm quoting: "Sometimes I'm genius, sometimes I'm a donkey."
They certainly beat that ass most of the time
out. Yeah, okay, sure.
The thing, I've got the solution. He can just fuck off and play with snacks. Apparently all Polish people want all Polish players. They just go get them all on one team, mate. See ya, off you go.
Well, there was a brief moment where I believed in Rostermania we'd end up with a Polish Gamer Legion. And look, they already had Hypex, so they probably wouldn't have gone Ultimate, but the vision was there. It was an option.
Well, except here's the problem. If that was actually a choice I presented to you, that's what I'd like to. I'd like to do some Sophie's Choice shit. Oh, which one do you want? Do you want Hypex or Ultimate? If you say stick with Hypex, then then Ultimate's not good enough for Liquid, is he? So what are we even talking about right now? What are we even talking about?
Yeah, we've had our... We could always go back. As we said, we're going to be going back to that well over and over again as the year progresses. Which AWPers teams should or shouldn't be playing with. We all have our pet favorites. But yeah, that's, I think, going to be the show. We've pretty nicely hit our runtime today. I wasn't expecting the AWP market to trigger us so much, but hey, I guess the one mention of Broken, all of us lose our minds. So, of course, that did go for a good half hour. But yeah, thank you for tuning in live. If you are members and you did make it,
there you go. Free my homie Dexter.
Yeah,
hey Dexter. Signed Jorko, whatever it is. We've all got AWPers we're making cases for. But yeah,
just put them on the same team at the end of the day. Make a team with all the AWP rejects. Jorko, Dexter, just put some more out there as well.
I'm sure they can all rifle fairly well at this point. It's almost a necessity. But yeah, if you're watching it on VOD, because it came out like 7 hours later for you guys, yeah, leave a comment to us your thoughts on all these topics. We'll see you probably next week at some point, maybe Thursday, maybe Wednesday, maybe Friday. We'll see how everyone's calendar's looking. For another episode of OVERCOMM'D. That's all from us. Bye-bye.